Well, so, okay, here's my thing. Here's my thing about 9/11. And this is the thing that I cannot get over. Let's say I embrace the official narrative. Let's say I do it. No one knew anything about it. No one participated. The government is telling us the complete and utter truth on 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The one thing I cannot get over is George Bush, while it was going down, sitting in the classroom with those kids and reading that book.
So there are a lot of people who have a lot of big ideas about what 9/11 represented as a magical ritual.
Tell us about this.
So I can't even crack. If you really want to get into it, the last podcast on the left, guys, did a 3-part 9/11 series.
Over 10 hours or so.
It's the definitive, to me, 9/11 podcast. The first episode is the events of the day. The second episode is like what probably happened. And the third episode is the really wacky, crazy stuff, right? And they talk about it was ritual. The ones that there's so much I could talk. I'd have to really get into it to like start explaining it.
Give me the elevator
but essentially
pitch.
It is the elevator pitch is that 9/11 as a symbolic ritual ushered in the next age of whatever, I can't remember. But it was basically a televised event. 9/11 as a mantra in everybody's brain was a field of magical energy that has brought humanity into the next age.
So 9/11 would be the symbol in symbolic magic. If you get enough people concentrating on one particular symbol, you can make that thing happen. And that thing, according to these extreme conspiracy theorists, was 9/11. That's the symbol.
And you're like,
Twin
okay,
Towers,
that's crazy, right? But then there is a video during 9/11. George Bush, the president, was on a school tour someplace in Florida, I think. And these kids were reading a book. And this is the audio. This is real. We have not altered it. This is the audio from that.
Get ready to read all these words on this page without making a mistake. Look at the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. Kid. Yes, kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. What word? Kid. Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. Steel. What word? Steel. Yes, steel. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Playing. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kit. Yes, kit. Get ready. Steel. Yes, steel. Get ready. Playing. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Boys and girls, speak your reader up from under your...
Every time I am tempted to take the government blue pill and just go along with what they say about 9/11, I watch that video.
What are they saying? They're saying kite, must, hit, steal, plane. That's fucking crazy.
Everything is creepier when you make a group of children say it.
So the children say it, and then a guy comes in and says, hey, a plane has just hit the first tower. Or whatever.
And he doesn't get up. He stays there.
And he stays there.
He doesn't want to scare
and
the
then they
children.
read him My Pet Goat, which has a bunch of symbolism within it if you're looking for it. Again, please, if you're interested in the really crazy part, listen to part 3 of the last podcast on the left's 9/11 series. It's great.
Yeah. So this video, because every time I think I'm out, they just pull me back in. And that's the video that does it. It's just like, I can't. There's something in me that's like, it's like in my bones. That's like,
chilling.
Do not trust this people.
Is
Don't go with that
chilling.
wolf. That wolf is not your grandmother.
Yes.
Don't go into that house.
Chilling.
I can't get over that video.
It is chilling. There's that. There is the fact that the Twin Towers pre 9/11 was so infested with asbestos that it was a toxic asset to whoever owned it. The retrofitting of the Twin Towers to remove the asbestos would have cost billions and billions of dollars more than the towers were worth.
No, I'm not saying, I know that's true. And I know that a lot of things don't add up. Like,
very true.
Why were there war games that morning? What about the asbestos and da-da-da-da-da? All of that I can just put to the side and be like, Sometimes things work out. Sometimes things just work out in your favor. You know what? That's okay. But that video, I can't.
Well, you
I
didn't
can't
let me
ignore
finish.
it.
You didn't let me
Yes.
finish. The asbestos thing was known, right?
Mhm.
Everybody knew this. A guy bought the Twin Towers about what, like 2-3 months before 9/11. Essentially got out of a surgery, stopped the painkillers so he could legally sign off on his purchasing of the Twin Towers, knowing it was a toxic asset, knowing that the retrofitting or removal of the asbestos would have cost more than the towers were worth, made it happen in time for 9/11 and for him to get his
The insurance to
insurance
kick in.
payout. These are the things that are like, this is really crazy.
Now, a lot of things you can explain away to me, but a choir of children telling you their plans, it's just creepy horror movie
It's so
stuff.
creepy. It's so good.
That they like made these kids somehow participate in their ritual.
Right.
This is why Alex Jones is a thing. People
Yeah.
wonder why Alex Jones is a thing. 9/11 gave us Alex Jones. If there
People-
was no 9/11, there would be no Alex Jones.
And I think people just don't want to deal with it. People have jobs. People just don't want to. It is maddening. It'll make you go completely insane and like go move to the woods.
And there are people who went along with Tulsi Gabbard, went along with the war on terror.
Mhm.
They signed their bodies away to the military,
Yeah.
thinking they could trust this government. And then they got betrayed. So there's that betrayal. But they don't trace it back to 9/11.
Right. And I think the loose change era that I went through and the sort of, I guess mine happened very early, right? I guess I was 12, 13, where I was like, oh my God, we've been lied to on a massive scale. Even though a lot of that turned out to not be necessarily true. I do not think it was a controlled demolition. That I don't think it necessarily needed to be. There are certain things that I was like sure of
Mhm.
that now I'm like, well, obviously but it doesn't change the fact that something very strange happened.
Yeah.
There were warnings. I think there were enough warnings that a competent global spy agency should have been able to stop 19 guys from changing the course of human history. That's their job.
That's if you want to believe we have a competent global spy network.
Sure.
Maybe we don't.
Maybe we don't.
Maybe we don't. Maybe people are giving the CIA too much credit.
But we do know for a
don't.
fact that they knew this was going to happen. That's not conspiracy. We
Yeah.
do know that
There were
I think it was
warnings.
the FBI that had
Israel
issued
warned us.
Yeah.
Israel warned us. And this was funny because the Jews get a lot of the blame for 9/11.
In
Because
all
they
things.
get a
it's-
blame
yeah.
for everything. But Israel actually warned us very
Mhm.
specifically.
Yeah.
So you can't really blame the Jews here. I know you want to.
Right.
The public is like, how can we pin this on the Jews?
Right.
You really can't.
And then all of the super condescending, like, oh, these crazies that think that 9/11 was an inside job. Like when Vivek, your favorite person in the whole world,
Oh my God. Vivek.
Vivek, excuse
Vivek
me,
like cake.
whatever. He was getting some shit on CNN recently about questioning the official narrative of 9/11. But what he said he was referring to was how the U.S. government was basically covering up for the Saudis, which is true.
That's easily provable.
But even to this day,
That's a low hanging fruit of 9/11.
yes. But to this day, just how disparaging they are about anybody who's like, this was weird. It was weird. We identified one of the terrorists by their passport being on the ground,
Intact.
intact. It's absurd. There's so many pieces of it that are just like, this doesn't make sense, and they're real. That guy buying a toxic asset like the Twin Towers 3 months before 9/11 happened. I might have the time wrong, whatever. That doesn't make sense. Building 7 collapsing doesn't make sense.
I mean, you can explain away Building 7. I'm saying
It's the first time in history a high rise like that has ever collapsed due to fire. It wasn't hit by a plane. It collapsed because it was on fire.
Yeah,
It had never happened
They
before.
explain that away. Here's my thing. I explained this before. Went over the math with my professor that the building could have collapsed by shockwave. The 2 buildings could have collapsed by shockwaves. It doesn't have to be controlled demolition.
Sure.
But controlled demolition also explains it.
Sure.
So that's why I'm like, when I say I don't know, I don't know. However, assuming I accept every single thing the government tells me, I
Mhm.
cannot explain away that video and the ick it gives me. It gives me an ick. It's not a mental thing. It's like
ick.
What is that? What does that taste like? No, I don't like it, and I don't trust it.
Well, because I have to think about the coordination required, right? The coordination required to like do a controlled demolition project on the Twin Towers. There's a lot of very long YouTube videos you can watch about.
It used to be when YouTube was
back
good.
when it was interesting. Now you really got to know the exact URL because they will not let you search for them.
Yeah. They'll show you CNN. What does CNN have to say about 9/11? Like, I did not come here for that.
Before we wrap up, we'll get into that a little bit too. But that there were crews going in and out, and they were the ones trying to remove the asbestos. Turns out that's what that was. They're trying to remove the asbestos, and it's cost. Anyway,
we are the carbon they're trying to get rid of.
Right. Building 7, though, was the CIA had a headquarters in Building 7. Let me read from the History Channel's website. So just how condescending and stupid this is. Why did Building 7 collapse? 9/11 conspiracy theories debunked from the History Channel. So basically what they say here. What they
and these are the people who brought you Ancient Aliens, so you got to trust everything they say.
I know. I can't believe they've betrayed me like this. The conspiracy theory. When they just to point out in the article, about 2/3 of it is, well, they have an interesting point here. Well, they have an interesting point here. That the CIA has a headquarters in Building 7. That no building in history has ever collapsed due to fire of this size. They say now that one did in like Portugal in 2017, but at the time it was unprecedented.
And that building, if I remember correctly, was on fire for like 20 hours, right?
Yeah. And this, they say, was on fire for, I think, 8 hours. There were no sprinklers because of the damage caused by the collapse of the towers.
And it got hit by some of the towers.
They say debris, but there's when you look at it, you could see that the debris falling didn't structurally damage the building.
You will not leave Building 7 alone.
It's the thing that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And all they say is like, hey, you crazies, it was on fire.
Hey, forget about it, man. This is a fire. You've never seen a fire before?
Right. They'll go on and on and on about what it took for the planes to create a shockwave after the collision and the running of the jet fuel down the elevator shafts that would destabilize buildings 1 and 2 enough that they would collapse. And then they go Building 7. Oh, it was on fire.
Well, that I had to.
That's crazy.
No, I had to find that out for my professor. I had to go and ask him, is there any way these could have collapsed sometimes? And then he was like, well, a shockwave could have, because he used to work for IBM and all this. He's an actual physics professor. Like, we had to figure that out. Yeah.
And they'll go on at great length about how it was like an unprecedented thing, that it was so, the conditions were right, that it just so happened that all of these things came together, collapsed both of the buildings. And then when it comes to Building 7, it was on fire.
It was on fire as debris, man. There weren't any sprinklers.
It's insane.
I'm at the point 22 years later, I spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours going in on this.
Yeah. Do you remember, I think the thing that got me into really questioning it was loose change.
Yeah, and that turned out to be, a lot of that turned out to be bogus.
Yes, completely fabricated nonsense. Which is the definition of controlled opposition, because loose change became, if you don't remember, 9/11 happens. About a year or two later, DVD starts circulating. Like, this is early internet availability stuff. So like, I literally was handed a DVD.
Yeah, and this is when people trusted DVDs they were handed, because no one had lied on the internet before.
Right, we weren't living in like late 2000s YouTube land where it's just like, oh, people just say whatever. Like, somebody took the time to like make this thing.
They made me a mixtape of conspiracies.
Why would they lie?
Yeah.
So I was handed that DVD, watched it. I was like, holy shit. So Loose Change was a documentary made by this guy. I won't even get into his name. That debunked.
And you don't have to watch Loose Change at this point.
You really do. There are much better, like, less bullshit documentaries that I will find and shout out at the end of this. But it was basically a debunking of the official narrative of 9/11 on every level. And all of the hits really came, well, they either came from this or it was compiled onto this and probably reached most people through the DVD Loose Change. And it was the controlled demolition the quote unquote proof of controlled demolition, the finding of the thermite on these.
But see, here's the thing. Loose Change did a lot of things, but there was also an organization called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth.
Yes.
And those were professionals.
And that's where the controlled opposition comes from, because Loose Change reached more people, reached the most people somehow, like a ground level viral video.
Yeah,
like
definitely viral.
Non-internet viral video. I mean, a lot of people got it on the internet, put it on DVDs, and handed them out. But it basically, it was a thing that was so easily debunked. Loose Change was so easily proven that like 90% of what this dude says is fake. That it shut down anybody questioning the official narrative of 9/11 entirely. Because if you question 9/11, what are you, like one of those Loose Change truthers?
But there was this organization called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, and these people risked their careers. There are obviously architects, they're structural engineers, they're professors, and they came out and they said, look, this is not the way this building went down. And this happens a lot. You have experts within an industry that disagree with each other.
Yes.
So we don't have to say that, these people, had these nefarious intentions.
Right.
Either side.
Yeah.
They were experts who disagreed.
And where we really see the same exact thing is when COVID was happening and people were like, we're pretty sure this is a genetically modified virus. And everybody's like, what are you, a fucking terrorist Trump supporter? Like,
well, I think
it was the same kind of thinking where it's like, if you question it at all, like if you question the narrative coming from our government at all, you aren't arguing in good faith. Like,
and you risk your career.
Yes.
There are stakes for questioning the official narrative.
In 9/11, the reason it's unacceptable to me to vilify anybody questioning any official narrative on COVID is because of 9/11. We've already lived through 9/11 and all of these other things where there is an official narrative and we're just supposed to be like, okay. So under COVID, the government's going to tell us, backed by the FDA or whatever, the pharmaceutical people, right? And we're just supposed to go, okay, like they didn't just get
CDC,
everybody addicted to heroin.
Yeah,
Or
which they did. You're
9/11
you're mixing up a lot of different betrayals and throwing them into one. You
But
got
it's the same phenomenon.
opioid, 9/11, COVID, and you just one ball of resentment against the government.
It's not against the, it's against really what it is. It's against regular people continuing to fall for this appeal to authority, right?
Yes.
The appeal to authority, which should have been like, we should have scrapped that after maybe
Vietnam.
the first two things on this list. Yeah. In the modern era, let's say in the modern era, the appeal
Do you
to
know how
authority.
old you're making people who remember Vietnam sound?
I know.
Look, in the modern era, like, no, not you. These people are still alive, and I'm like, I
don't know much about Vietnam. Like, were people saying, no, if we keep fighting this war, they'll become a democracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I guess it is a similar
we had to
thing.
stop the dominoes.
And I'm sure there were people being like, no, they won't. This is never going to happen.
There were experts who disagreed with not only can we militarily win Vietnam, but if we do, will it stop the spread of communism?
Yeah. And I guess I'm talking from a millennial perspective.
Yeah.
And
why nothing happened before
no
we were
millennials
alive.
should have gone along unquestioningly with anything after 2008, let's say.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'll say that's fair. Like if you didn't understand by that point what you were dealing with.
Yeah.
What kind of a beast the government actually is.
And I think another unintentional consequence of 9/11 and a lot of these great betrayals are like living through the neocon era. Like you said, that it was essentially a religious war.
They tried to make it a religious war.
Yeah.
I think that's the level to which George Bush understood things.
Yeah.
I don't think he really understood what this was. Like this was an attempting to rearrange the balance of power in the Middle East and get control over their oil reserves or whatever.
Yeah.
I think he understood this in religious terms.
And I really think it happened completely above George Bush as president's head. But the religious war and then the pushback on the left, like even me, like
your new atheist phase.
Yeah, the new atheist movement, right?
Yeah.
Not even just new atheist movement, but like I guess that's when I was really, getting into Jon Stewart on The Daily Show. It seemed very like they seem to be just speaking truth to power in a way that was just like so obvious. And to this day, we will go back and watch old Daily Show episodes and like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. I forget what they were pushing against. You forget kind of how the world was in early 2000.
Yeah. So this woke thing, everyone, there's a backlash to woke now. Hello, YouTube. That was a clip from my weekly Patreon podcast. This, of course, is our 9/11 special because we do 9/11. Sign up for my Patreon and you can hear all the stuff that's unfit for YouTube. Thank you.